Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to week 6, lecture 1, market structures, market power, and imperfect competition. In this week's lecture, we are going to study the different types of markets. We're going to study oligopolistic markets, monopolistic competition, and then duopolistic markets. Under duopolistic markets, we're going to study the Cournot oligopolistic competition market, the Cournot oligopoly, as well as the Bertrand oligopoly. So before we get started, we're going to look at the different market structures. And market structures, markets are normally distinguished based on the type of farms, the number of farms, as well as the type of products that they produce. Some farms produce similar products, and in other markets, we have certain markets that produce different products, and then we call them differentiated products. So we are going to study each of these markets in detail. We're going to look at the Cournot competition, or the Cournot oligopoly market, as well as the Stackelberg market and the Bertrand model. So we are going to look at about three different models there when we study the duopolistic market. The duopolistic market consists of only two farms. So if we move, maybe later on in the discussion, you're going to see how certain farms make their decision based on the previous farm's reaction function. So we're going to obtain the reaction functions and then use those ones to obtain the optimal values. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, the structure of a market, of every market, is different. It's not the same. Now, every market is different in terms of what? In terms of the number of farms in the market and the nature of the products that they produce. Some markets produce similar products. Now, take for the case of you have, let's say, a market for maybe roses, right? They produce similar products. And then some markets produce differentiated products. Now, take the case of the cereal markets, the US cereal markets. You have Kellogg, you have General Mills. So all these farms produce certain goods that are different in some respects. Now, the structure of the markets looks at what? The different numbers of farms as well as the nature of product differentiation. So there are basically two things here we need to look at. When we talk about the structure of the market, we look at two different dimensions. We look at the number of farms in the market. Now, certain markets have one single farm. That's the case of a monopolistic market. Some markets have many farms, like the perfectly competitive markets, where you have so many farms, large number of buyers and sellers, that takes the price of the market as given. So in other words, each farm in the perfectly competitive markets has no power to set the market price. Then we have the case of a single farm in a monopolistic market. We also have the case of monopolistic competition. That is a market where there are so many farms and in which there is also competition. So we have so many farms. Take the case of physician services, auto maintenance services. So you also have the case of dry cleaning services. So all these ones have so many farms, a lot of farms producing differentiated products and then selling those products to many consumers or many buyers. That's the case of a monopolistic competition. So you have the case of an oligopolistic market. One typical example is a duopolistic market where we have only two farms, as in the case of the coal nuts oligopoly and the Bertrand oligopoly. So we're going to take a look at these two later. And the structure of the markets is also based on what? The nature of the products that they produce. Some markets produce similar products, like the perfectly competitive markets. Some markets produce differentiated products, like the oligopolistic markets, right? The oligopolistic differentiated product markets. You do have the oligopolistic homogeneous product market and then the oligopolistic differentiated product market. So there are two types of oligopolistic market here. You have the one that produces differentiated product, and then you have the other one that produces homogeneous products. Now, when we say homogeneous products, they are identical in every respect in terms of what? In terms of the attributes, in terms of the price, in terms of the product performance. In other words, performance characteristics. So that is the case of an oligopolistic homogeneous product market. So we have the oligopolistic differentiated product market that we're going to take a look at. Take the case of the cereal markets in the United States. You have Kellogg, you have General Mills, etc. So these are all examples of those type of markets that produces different brands of goods. So let's continue. So as I said earlier, here we're going to focus on four different types of market, four types of markets here. You have the first market, which is called the homogeneous product oligopoly market. And this market is one in which there are a few or small amount of firms selling goods that are the same, that look the same. They are the same in terms of attributes, the same in terms of performance characteristics, the image, as well as the price. So in the US, you have this glass container industry where you have the Owen, Illinois, the Saint-Gobain, and Anko. These are the three different large manufacturers that operate in the US glass container industry. So these three large firms kind of dominate in the glass container industry. They have a greater share of that particular market. So they produce similar products, And those products that they produce are similar in terms of characteristics. They are similar in terms of image as well as the prices. So we have the second market, which is referred to as the dominant farm market. And in this market, there is only one single farm that dominates. So it doesn't mean that there is only one farm. It only means that you have one farm that dominates. We have only one dominant farm here. So this dominant farm holds a greater share of the market. It has a greater share of the market, this dominant farm. Even though it has a single farm that dominates, but there are also a lot of farms, small in nature, that also competes with these big farms, right? So you have also so many small farms, each also selling similar products. But those products, in terms of the characteristics, in terms of the product quality, they are not the same as the products produced by the dominant farm. So take a look at General Electric. Now, General Electric holds a greater share of about 55% of the market in the United States. So it is a typical example of a dominant firm in the US light bulb market. So the US light bulb market is dominated by General Electric. Even though we have some other companies or other firms that produce light bulb, but GE sells about 55 to 60% of all light bulbs consumed in the United States. So it is the dominant firm in the US light bulb market. Now we have the third type of markets that is referred to as the differentiated product oligopoly markets. So this in this market, you have a small amount of producers selling products that are close substitutes to each other. So the product that they sell are close substitutes to each other. Now, as I said earlier, we take the case of the soft drinks or the soda industry, the market that produces soda or the market that produces soft drinks, Coca-Cola, as well as Pepsi. So these two firms compete fiercely in the soda industry or in the US soft drinks industry. Now for the cereal industry, US cereal industry, we have Kellogg, we have Quaker Oats, we have General Mills, and some other firms that produce cereal for the market. So they sell about 90% of all cereals consumed in the United States. Again, I try to bring another market, which is the US cell phone market or the mobile phone market. You have T-Mobile, you have Sprint, you have Verizon, Spectrum. These are all fierce competitors in the US mobile phone industry. So this is also an example of a market that produces differentiated product. Now, if you look at the mobile phone industry, you have different brands of cell phones. You have the ones produced by T-Mobile. You have the ones produced by Sprint. You also have the other one produced by Verizon as well as Spectrum. So all these firms produce cell phones. They all produce cell phones and then sell to the general populace. So because the share of these farms, these ones command a greater share of the market. We say that they are very large farms. They are very large farms in the sense that they command a greater share of the US mobile phone market. And the same thing applies to the US cereal market. You have those three farms, Kellogg, Cookout, and General Mills. They uh, sell about 90% of all cereal in the United States. So they are regarded as very large farms in that US cereal market. Now we have the last one, which is referred to as the monopolistic competition. Now you see, sometimes you go to the doctor, you have so many physicians in North Carolina, and you also have so many dentists in North Carolina. You have a lot of dry cleaning. You have a lot of laundromat also in North Carolina. And not only laundromat, you also have a lot of DVD rentals, car rentals, truck rentals, etc. So all these ones are referred to as um, um, monopolistic competition, competitive markets. Now, for this type of markets, you have a lot of farms producing different products. The products are not the same. They are not similar. They are different in every respect, in terms of product quality, in terms of performance characteristics, in terms of attributes, in terms of the image, and even the price. So these products are not the same. Now, um, if you just walk around the different laundromats and try to get the prices, you tend to realize that all the laundromats don't charge the same price. They all charge different prices, right? And at the same time, they also provide different services. Some laundromat provide excellent service, quality service. Some provide very poor service. So it depends on which one you want to go to. So um, the dry cleaning service market is also an example of a monopolistic competitive market. It is not a duopolistic market. It is an example of a monopolistic competitive market because there are many firms providing the same service. So in a duopolistic competitive market, in a duopolistic market, you only have two firms. You only have two firms in the market, right? You have two firms in the market, and in the market structure that we just talked about, you have that is the dominant market. You have only one firm, and then some other large number of small firms that compete with the large farm. But those small farms are not able to compete with the large farm, the dominant farms, because in terms of information, having access to information, the dominant farm has greater access to information, and at the same time, the dominant farm has a lot of resources, and they are also able to embark on what? Research and development in order to increase or provide products, improve on the quality of the goods that they produce. So they can embark on research and development in order to improve on the quality of the product that they produce, because they do have a lot of resources. So the smaller farms, even though they try to compete with the dominant farm, but because they have fewer resources, they are not able to embark on research and development on a very large scale relative to the dominant farm. And so the performance characteristics of their product is not the same as the one produced by the dominant farm. So you tend to see the dominant farm producing very good quality products and also commanding a greater share of the market. So he's going to sell his products to a lot of consumers or a lot of customers relative to those uh, smaller farms. So in the case of the monopolistic competition here, we are looking at farms that produces different products. Products are differentiated. They are not the same in terms of performance characteristics, in terms of attributes, in terms of price. They are not the same. So we have so many farms in the market producing different products. That is the case of a monopolistic competitive market. So if we look at the table here, I tried to bring out this table. This table was extracted from Ben Sanko, the microeconomics text that I sent to you guys, the PDF document. So if you look at the table here, we have number of farms and then product differentiation. These are the two dimensions, or these are the two forms, two types that we use to determine the types of market. We determine the type of market based on what? Based on the number of farms as well as the types of product that they produce. In other words, product differentiation, right? So if you have farms that produce similar products, and then you have a large number of them, then that is the case of what? A perfectly competitive market, right? You have many farms and they are producing similar products. They also take the price of the good as given, and no farm is able to set the price in a perfectly competitive market. Then we say that particular farm is a perfectly competitive farm. And again, you also have the case where certain farms produce similar products, but at the same time, there are not many in the industry. There are very few. Take the case of the US glass container market. You have very few markets. You have the Owen, Illinois, the Anchor, and the Saint-Gobain. These are the three largest farms or corporations in the US glass container industry, right? So that particular market is referred to as what? Homogeneous product oligopolistic market. And then you also have the dominant farm market, where you have a single farm. There's only one farm. General Electric is the dominant farm, but you also have some other farms, small farms, that produce light bulb. Even though those farms are not able to compete the same way as General Electric, but they also produce light bulbs. And as a matter of fact, their products are also similar to General Electric. The only difference is that General Electric, because they have a lot, because the farm is large and because they have a lot of resources, they are able to embark on research and development in order to improve on their product quality. As such, they can produce quality products relative to the products of those small farms. So General Electric here is referred to as the dominant farm in the US light bulb market. You also have the case of the monopolistic market here. Now, we talk about the internet domain name registration. We only have one single farm in the market. So that is the case of a monopolistic market, and it also produces similar products. Now, if you look also at the monopolistic competition here, the second row here, you tend to realize that this is the case of many farms producing different products, and these farms take the case of legal services. You have so many lawyers, law firms, right? And that again is one example of a monopolistic competitive market. And you also have very large, you have these dry cleaning farms, dry cleaning markets. You have so many dry cleaners, and they also try to produce different services, right? So you also have different physicians, different dentists, different opticians, etc., etc. Okay. Then you also have the case of very few farms producing differentiated products, right? So this is the case of a differentiated product oligopoly. Now you have two types of oligopoly. You have the one that produces similar products and the one that produces what? Different products. Okay? So this is the case of uh, um, um, a differentiated product oligopoly, right? So if you look at the soft drinks markets, or maybe let's say the cereal market, uh, you have a few farms producing cereal, Kellogg, General Mills, etc. Right? So they produce a differentiated product. The products are not the same. You know, uh, you go and buy cereal from Kellogg, and it is different from that produced by General Mills. Right? Now we also look at the case of the dominant farm and then the monopoly. Right? But now, do we have a single farm that produce differentiated products? Certainly not. Do we also have one dominant farm in the market that produces differentiated products? No. So that's why we leave these ones blank, these two blank, okay? We don't have those farms in theory. We don't have them, okay? So I'm going to stop for today, and then hopefully we'll move on to some other concepts in the other lectures. But before we move on, I want you to do this one when you go home. Please try to complete do this exercise. Provide a list of all the different types of markets in North Carolina. Give examples of each market, each of those markets. Give examples of each of those markets. Try to put them in a form of table. Then provide or give examples of each of them. If you're able to give 10 examples, then it's fine. You're able to give 20 examples, 15, 6 examples, 2, 3. It's up to you. So please go ahead and do this exercise. And this one, if you're able to do it, if you can do it, if you are not, it is not compulsory for you to do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. But if you're able to do it, then you're going to get extra credits. So that's all I have to say. So I wish you all the best, guys, and I hope you guys are going to take the exams and you're able to do well in the second midterm exams. So the lecture notes for next week and then the last week, the final week, are already on Blackboard. So go ahead. Those of you who want to do things faster, you can go ahead and start reading those ones. And hopefully, I'll be waiting to read your research papers. I know most of you have completed. Those of you who have not completed the research paper, make sure you try to do your work right now and try to wrap it up. I want you guys to wrap it up by next week. I want everybody to submit their paper by next week so that those papers will be assessed and graded. The, the I think the final week, probably, I don't know if you guys want your final exams to be the 8th week of the final week. If you want your exams to be the final, let me know. Just send me an email, shoot me an email, then I'll be able to change the date for that final exams. So I wish you all the best, guys. Bye for now.